Well, hello everybody, and I'm so glad to be back with you for another virtual concert. Tonight's will be kind of a variety of music. I'm just calling it my Easter special. Today is Easter Sunday, and I'm going to do a variety of music, like I said, but I came up with a few early jazz tunes which are kind of thematic in a way for today. And the first one I'm going to play is right here. I'm going to show you the original sheet music cover. It's from a movie made in 1930, one of the early talkies called Honey. Words and music by Frank Frank Harling and the fabulous Sam Coslow. It's called Sing You Sinners. There we go. Thank you so much. Sing You Sinners. Well, I always am happy to take requests during my virtual concerts, and I got one prior to tonight's performance for a somewhat seasonal song I thought I would play for you, written for one of Al Jolson's big Broadway shows called Bombo in 1924. This is April Showers, and with it another song called Singin' in the Rain. I bet most of you know that. So here we go with April Showers and Singin' in the Rain. thank you so much. Singing in the Rain. I already see a request for Easter Parade. So I will do that very soon. I might wait one or two more songs because, a lot of people join the concert later on, so I want to do it kind of midway through the concert. I'm not going to play it twice, but in a sense I am. You'll see what I mean. Let me do another one of these early jazz tunes, which I thought was kind of thematic for tonight's performance, and it would be fun to just play it for the heck of it. And this is also from a movie, so here's the original sheet music cover from the Marx Brothers movie, A Day at the Races. Everybody loves the Marx Brothers. And this is a song which is sort of based almost like a parody upon an older African-American spiritual. And it's called All God's Children Got Rhythm. It was rearranged for the movie by Bronislaw Kaper and Walter Uhrman. I assume that's how you pronounce his name. Bronislaw Kaper wrote for a lot of movies. I think he wrote the song San Francisco. Somebody look that up for me. Lyrics by Gus Kahn. So here's the movie version. All God's Children Got Rhythm. All God's Children Got Rhythm. Thank you very much, folks. Well, usually about this time during the concert, I mention that I do accept virtual tips for these performances. All you have to do is send in a tip on PayPal or Venmo, just like you would do in person, and all that information should be in the postings on all three websites I'm on: Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm very grateful to all of you for listening on this major holiday. Oh, got somebody from Calgary, Canada here on Twitch. That's wonderful. Well, I know there's some people that may join later. However, I think it's time for me to go ahead and tell the story of the most famous pop song associated with this holiday. Now, like so many of the songs of the Great American Songbook, it was written by a Jewish guy, and that has not escaped my notice. His real name was Israel Bailin. He was a Russian Jewish immigrant and wrote such famous and enduring melodies is Alexander's Ragtime Band, God Bless America, White Christmas, and this song, Easter Parade. However, many people do not know that Easter Parade is based on an earlier song written by Irving Berlin during the ragtime era. And the band leader, Don Neely, suggested to me that I play this the other day, and I'm so glad he thought of it, so you can compare both songs back to back. Here is an original copy from 1917 of Irving Berlin's Smile and Show Your Dimple. This is a ragtime era song, World War I, you might say. And so let me play this for you, and you will see that the melody is very, very similar to Easter Parade. But the verse of the song is quite different, and I think it'll be interesting to compare the two. So first, from 1917, Smile and Show Your Dimple. Smile and Show Your Dimple. Does that sound familiar? Okay. Well, fast forward from 1917 to 1933. Irving Berlin is working on the Broadway show As Thousands Cheer. And he needs a new tune. And assuming no one will remember Smile and Show Your Dimple, he uses part of the melody and writes Easter Parade. So here is the original sheet music cover of Easter Parade from the Broadway show. Of course, it became such an immense hit that they removed the reference to the Broadway show from the sheet music cover and printed the other one with the blue yellow coloring for Easter. But here is Easter Parade, complete with the verse as well. Thank you very much. Well, there's Easter Parade for tonight's concert. It's a cute little song, fairly simple, really. And, I thought I should discuss the movie Easter Parade as well, which starred Judy Garland and Fred Astaire. It's an MGM movie, again, written years after the song came out. I mean, the movie was made years after the song came out. And that happened often. Hit songs from the ragtime and early jazz period were then reused as titles of songs. The song titles were used, as the names of movies. During the golden age of Hollywood, primarily in the 40s and 50s, so many of those musicals with Doris Day, Judy Garland, Debbie Reynolds, people like that, they were all named after songs from earlier times. And Easter Parade featured many of the really terrific ragtime era songs by Irving Berlin. So, I thought it would be appropriate to play some of the songs they did in that movie as well. And this one dates back a long way. We're going to do a song that Irving Berlin wrote in 1912. It was an immense hit shortly after Alexander's Ragtime Band. This is When the Midnight Choo-Choo Leaves for Alabama. Thank you so much. When the Midnight Choo-Choo Leaves for Alabama. There's a wonderful scene in the movie Easter Parade where Judy and Fred Astaire do a long dance, and it's a medley of about 4 or 5 of the ragtime Irving Berlin tunes. And that's one of them, the Midnight Choo-Choo. And I believe these next couple of songs were also performed. There's so many songs in the movie, and it's been a while since I've seen it. I can't remember them all. But I'm going to do 2 more of them for you. A song that Irving Berlin wrote, which I think is the only one ever written about the state of Michigan. I want to go back to Michigan, down on the farm. And with it, one of his immense hits called Ragtime Violin. In those days, these pop tunes by Irving Berlin were really more successful than the music of Scott Joplin. Although he is known as the ragtime king today, Irving Berlin wrote songs that more people would have recognized back in the early 1900s. So, here are two of them. I Want to Go Back to Michigan and Ragtime Violin. Thank you so much. Well, just by coincidence, I'm going to be playing in Michigan next week. Even before I played in the Old Time Piano Championship, I had played at a ragtime festival in Frankenmuth, Michigan. That was truly the first place I ever played the piano in public, and Zinder's Ragtime Festival is still going after all these years. It will be 20 years ago this year that I first performed there, and I'm delighted to be going back. The festival is next week. Also features two or three other great piano players, Bob Milne, Jeff Barnhart, and the talented multi-instrumentalist T.J. Mueller from St. Louis is coming. He plays banjo and cornet. He's just awesome. I love playing with him. I feel excited to go play with him. So if you happen to be in the Midwest, come to Frankenmuth next week. And maybe we'll do that too. And I'll have to ask TJ about playing that with me. I think that would be fun. I even know all the words. I want to go back, I want to go back, I want to go back to the farm, far away from harm, with the milk pail on my arm. I miss the rooster, the one that used to wake me up at 6 a.m. Your great big city's awfully pretty. Nevertheless, I want to be there. I want to see there a certain someone full of charm. That's why I wish again that I was in Michigan down on the farm. There aren't many good songs about Kansas either. I'm afraid that's true. Now, I would very much like a whole lot more requests for tonight's concert, so please start sending them in, folks. I was only able to think of a handful of things to play that really fit the theme for tonight's performance. So I could use some help from all of you. I'm always happy to do that. I'll check all three websites. Sometimes I forget Twitch. I apologize for that, those of you over there on Twitch. And I figured I'd get some requests for hymns tonight. I am going to try and play some for you. I don't do that very often, but I'm going to give it a shot tonight. I don't know I'm putting all my eggs in one basket. Don't know that by heart, but that would be cute. I saw someone mentioned the Bumble Boogie. I could do that later on in the concert. That's kind of spring themed in a way. Let me check all the websites before I decide on a tune here. Bear with me for a moment, folks. Oh, we have somebody from Australia listening tonight. Thank you, folks. Oh, there's an interesting request on YouTube. I think I'll do this next. I got a request for Rooster Rag. Now that's a neat tune, and I'm pretty sure I can play it without having practiced it. I'm going to give it a shot. We're going to do Rooster Rag, written, I think it was about 1916 or 17 by Muriel Pollock, who is a very talented composer and pianist who made a lot of piano rolls. She was married to the Tin Pan Alley songwriter Will Donaldson, and his son just passed away, Ted Donaldson, 2 or 3 months ago, and I talked to him on the phone last summer, and I really wish I'd had the chance to get to know him, and just didn't work out. And I really wanted to ask him, it was his stepmother, I wanted to ask him about the woman that wrote this piece of music. And it was revived in the 1950s by the terrific Wally Rose. Here's Rooster Rag. Thank you very much. Rooster Rag. I see someone requesting Down Yonder here, and I'm sorry if I missed your request in the past. You know, sometimes when I'm playing, I can't read the computer screen at the same time, so I do not see all the comments. And then sometimes I will edit the videos on YouTube as well, which removes then the chat from the live session. But anyway, let me play it for you now. Happy to do it. This is one of the great tunes. Technically, it's not of the ragtime era. It's from 1921. It was written by Louis F. Muir, one of the two men that wrote Waiting for the Robert E. Lee. And so the melody is very similar to Waiting for the Robert E. Lee. It was introduced by Al Jolson and then revived by Del Wood, a pianist who played on the Grand Ole Opry in the early 50s. It was an immense hit, Down Yonder. Thank you. Down Yonder. Now that was, from Mr. Classical Music on YouTube. Boy, that's a funny request. A song that was such a big honky-tonk piano hit from someone whose YouTube handle is Mr. Classical Music. It's funny irony. And I see there's going to be more requests for hymns. Yes, I'm going to do that. I might save it for kind of the second half of the concert, but I'm going to do that. Now, let's see. What else can I play for you folks? I did see a couple of requests for Alexander's Ragtime Band. I could do a little more Irving Berlin. That's certainly an option. Let me check all three websites. I see a request on Twitch for Tiger Rag. I'm planning on doing some New Orleans themed stuff during the concert, so maybe I will squeeze that in. Let me think about just kind of what order I want to do things in. Not that it really matters very much. Maybe I'll go ahead and do it now. I'm going to start with some other New Orleans tunes and then do Tiger Rag for this person here on Twitch. Let me do that. First, we're getting into the realm of the hymns now. This one isn't really. It's a traditional jazz standard, which came out of New Orleans. And, of course, do you all know what song I'm talking about? It's When the Saints Go Marching In. So I'm going to play that for you, and with it, a whole bunch of other tunes that came out of New Orleans. They were popular with the early jazz bands. We're going to do Down in Jungletown, followed by Down by the Riverside, and the tune that all the jazz bands played at New Orleans funerals called Oh, Didn't He Ramble, and then wind up with the famous march written by, I'm going to blank on the name. It was a very famous march that came out of New Orleans called High Society. This is how I like to do When the Saints Go Marching In. And of course, if you are familiar with his playing, you may notice that I stole this arrangement borrowed this arrangement from the late Johnny Maddox. So let me do my version of When the Saints Go Marching In. you so much. When the Saints Go Marching In, and a whole bunch of other tunes. You guys in the chat are giving me a kick. March, 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 march. Okay, let me do some music for you now by the great Jelly Roll Morton. I think he was, beyond a doubt, the greatest piano player that ever came out of New Orleans. And let's see. I want to see if the person, Raphael, here on Twitch is still listening. I want to do just a little bit slower number first before Tiger Rag. I'm going to do the original Jelly Roll Blues, which was written in, or published rather, in 1915. He probably wrote it earlier than that. It was the first tune that Jelly Roll had published, and it's really almost a rag in style. In the early days, blues and ragtime were very similar, but this has Jelly Roll's touch all over it. It's the original Jelly Roll Blues. Original Jelly Roll Blues. Thank you so much. Well, I don't know if the person that requested Tiger Rag is still listening, but let me play it for you now. And I have played several different versions of this over the years. I really still think the Jelly Roll Morton version is the best. The Art Tatum recording is incredible. You know, it shows amazing technique and virtuosity as a pianist, but I'm more partial to the Jelly Roll style of playing. He was rooted in an earlier tradition. The very first part of Tiger Rag is based on French quadrilles, dances that were popular in New Orleans going way back to the 1800s. So I'm going to start with some of the original French quadrilles. And here we go with Tiger Rag. Thank you so much. Tiger Rag. Well, if you'll bear with me for a few minutes here, folks, I need to make a few announcements. And one is that, of course, I do accept virtual tips for these concerts. If you enjoy this kind of music, supporting live music is really the most important thing to do, but this is, just about as good as it gets otherwise, and it's been very helpful to my career to do these virtual concerts. A small tip on PayPal or Venmo adds up. And if you don't trust PayPal, I have a P.O. box on my website for checks as well. I am grateful for all of those. And I want to mention a couple of events that are coming up. I'll be in Frankenmuth, Michigan for Zinder's Ragtime Festival next week, starting on April 19th. And then later this summer, the World Championship Old Time Piano Playing Contest will be Memorial Day weekend in Oxford, Mississippi at Ole Miss University. I no longer compete, but I help MC the contest. I'm the master of ceremonies along with the founder, Ted Lehman. He and I have been doing it together for over a decade now. And I help introduce the piano players, ask them where they're from and what they're going to play, and it's a lot of fun. This is really the event that gave me my start, and they have been struggling quite a bit for an in-person audience. If you're anywhere within the area or have the ability to fly to Memphis, Tennessee, please come to Oxford in person. It makes it a lot more fun. That is my request there. And of course, the week after will be the Scott Joplin Festival in Sedalia, Missouri. I'll be there as well. And I will be doing a virtual concert next Sunday night, and I already know what it's going to be. I'm going to do the next in my series of concerts of music by decade. And this is going to be, actually I'm going to split the 1920s into two parts, specifically music from 1919 to 1924. Now I know that's very specific, and I know you're all serious music students. However, the opening portion of the concert will be another continuous 30-minute medley of music from that era. I was inspired to do this by a bunch of old tapes that I have of Johnny Maddox. And he split the 1920s into two parts, actually, right after World War I was over, 1919 to 1924. And that will be how I open next week's concert. And then the rest of the concert will be mostly requests. I'll probably try and stick mostly to 1920s music. I won't be able to stick to those 5 years terribly easily, and I don't expect all of you to either, but that's going to be a fun and special virtual concert next weekend as well. So, with those announcements made, let me get back to the music. And if you follow Facebook, you may have noticed that I mentioned I'm going to do a piano roll demonstration for you tonight. This is a very special player piano. It's an Apollo player piano. The piano itself is made by Melville Clark, which owned QRS, the piano roll company, by the way. It is probably the finest upright piano I've ever had the pleasure of owning. And that's one reason I'm content to just play and practice on this upright instead of a grand. And it just hit me yesterday that there would be a couple of piano rolls that would be really fun and appropriate to play during today's Easter special concert. And this is in honor of one of the great pianists of the ragtime era. He traveled the country, played one of the most incredible concert careers in history. His name is John William Boone, but he had his eyes taken out when he was 6 months old and became known as Blind Boone. And he was very religious, and he started every concert with a hymn. Now, Boone died without making any phonograph records whatsoever, but he did make about 7 or 8 hand-played player piano rolls. He was I think he was the second African-American artist to make hand-played piano rolls. There was one guy that preceded him by a few weeks or a few months. But these are remarkable rolls because they give us an idea what Blind Boone may have sounded like. And so this also leads us into the portion of the concert where I thought I'd try and play some hymns in ragtime. Now, this first roll is not really ragtime in style. It's almost classical. Boone's favorite composer was Franz Liszt, and so you can hear that. I finally learned Boone's version of When You and I Were Young, Maggie. It's the most remarkable of all of the rolls. He cut them all in 1912. So we're going to go back to 1912 and listen to Blind Boone play Nearer My God to Thee. And one of the special things about the Apollo piano is that I do have a dynamic control. Most regular 88-note player pianos, that is, not reproducing pianos, do not have dynamic control or expression whatsoever. But I'll see if I can add a little expression in to this right now. Nearer My God to Thee, played by the one and only Blind Boone himself, circa November 1912. And there's Near My God to Thee, played by Blind Boone. Hope you all enjoyed that. If you'll bear with me, I'm going to play one more piano roll for you as well. Because it occurred to me that there's another one of Boone's rolls that has a little bit of spiritual significance. And we're going to do what Boone used to do during his concerts. He would play a lot of really incredible music, probably highbrow classical stuff. And then he would say, we're going to put the cookies on the lower shelf. And he would play something in a ragtime style. Get this put away. And so this piano roll is much more in a ragtime or Southern gospel style. And it's called Camp Meeting Number 1. And I assume that it is based on a couple of Southern spiritual songs. I wonder whether the correct title is Camp Meeting Medley Number 1. But I looked it up earlier today. I could not find any information about what songs are included in this roll. And the word medley is not included on the roll. It's just Camp Meeting Number 1. But the point is, we get to hear Blind Boone play. And we can imagine that we are at a Southern camp meeting back in 1912 when this piano roll was made. Camp Meeting Number 1, played by Blind Boone. reading number 1 by Blind Boone. For a historian like me, it's just fascinating to get to hear him play. And even though, I'm going to wait till that song. Even though we don't have the perfect reproduction of the expression on the piano, you can still hear what he sounded like. They said he was so good that he would even copy other people's mistakes. It's just remarkable to me that someone can play like that who could never see a note on the piano. He was an amazing man, there's no doubt about that. Well, I'm going to try and play a few hymns for you in ragtime. I noticed that there's over 126 people watching on YouTube right now. Thank you, folks. I'm amazed that that is happening on Easter Sunday, so I appreciate it very much. Oh, I see a question. Who was the first black person to record a hand-played piano roll before Blind Boone? I think it was one of the African-American composers like Nathaniel Dett. I think that's who it was. He wrote spirituals and sort of like parlor music and that kind of thing. It wasn't ragtime, and it wasn't quite as great as Blind Boone, I wouldn't say. But anyhow, let's see. The first hymn I'm going to try is one that my grandfather loved, which is why I still know the tune. It's a fairly simple melody, and I believe it dates way back to the 1800s. And with most of these hymns, I'm going to try and add in some ragtime and maybe even Boogie Woogie to spice them up. But this first one is called When the Roll is Called Up Yonder. I even have a piano roll of this played by Clarence Johnson, the great blues pianist. And there's a funny story about my grandfather. When he was in church as a little kid down in Texas, he was singing in the choir, and he sang When the Rollies Called Up Yonder. He didn't know what he was saying. I think that's the story. My mother can correct me there on YouTube. Anyway, here it goes. Thank you so much. When the Rollies Called Up Yonder. I've never heard it played like that before. Well, I just made it up. I tried to spice it up a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing with the next tune. So, When I was about 12 or 13 years old, I played a benefit concert for the church where this hymn was originally written, which is up in Michigan, surprisingly enough. And let's see, I can tell you the date it was written, 1913, one of the great classics, which has also been done by a lot of traditional jazz bands, so I feel like it fits in for tonight's concert. I'm going to be just about sight reading it, and we'll see what I can do with it. This is The Old Rugged Cross. Thank you very much. Well, I gave it a shot. That's the best I can do with that kind of stuff. I don't play it very often, and to be very honest with you, sight reading is not one of my great skills because I didn't practice it that much, I guess, as a young teenager. I don't know. But it's still challenging, and sight reading hymns on the piano is one of the best things you can do to practice that because they're often written in 4-part vocal harmonies, which is really very good for your brain. You know, you're doing 4 separate lines almost at one time. But I digress. So please think about sending in some additional requests tonight. I really only have one more hymn to play for you, and I could do that next, but if anyone has requests, speak now. Oh my, we're up to 135 on YouTube. That's fantastic. Someone says player pianos are the future of Twitch. That is hilarious. Now, Steve and I have already played Easter Parade, of course. I did that fairly early on in the concert because I knew I'd get a lot of requests for that. Let me go ahead and play the next hymn that I was planning to do. And to be very honest with you, this is my favorite of them all. I think it makes the best jazz-style hymn. And I'm talking about Just a Closer Walk with Thee. And my version of this is partially inspired by Bob Seeley, who I think is the best boogie woogie piano player that ever lived. And I don't play it exactly like Bob, but he has been one of my big inspirations for many years. And so I'm going to do this and maybe a few other boogie woogie tunes here before we close up the concert tonight. Thank you so much. Just a closer walk with thee. Well, I could sure use one or two more requests for tonight's concert. Like I said, I think I'll play a little more Boogie Woogie before we close tonight. There's no point in requesting any more hymns because I don't know anymore. That's the most I can do. You know, just because I have focused on popular music for so many years. Oh my gosh, I see King Chanticleer. You know, I might play Bumble Boogie. I think that's a good idea. Let me check all the websites. I try not to miss people's requests. You know, if I can play it, of course I'll try and do it, but it has to be a song that I kind of know by heart. That's really the only rule, and that's simply because I want to give the best performance that I can. And unless I practice it, then it doesn't do much good. I see a request here from George on YouTube for Boogie Woogie Stomp. That is essentially the same as Pine Top's Boogie Woogie, and I can play that for you. So why don't I go ahead and do that? This was the first record that ever came out with Boogie Woogie in the title. 1928, Pine Top Smith from Chicago made this record, and sadly he died less than a year later. He never got to see what a huge hit it became. Tommy Dorsey's orchestra had one of the biggest hits on it, and it was done under the title of Boogie Woogie Stomp by Albert Ammons and Pete Johnson too, I think. This is just my own version of it. So let me play this for George there on YouTube. This is Pine Top's original Boogie Woogie. Pine Top's Boogie Woogie. I'm trying to read the comments here. It's tough to read the comments and play the piano at the same time. Oh my. Well, you can stomp to that tune because it's also called Boogie Woogie Stomp. Oh, don't worry, folks. I'm going to do Bumble Boogie, but as a musician, I try and program things a certain way. So the fastest, most rowdy tune is going to be the closer for tonight's concert. I'm going to try one more thing for you. I've been working on this piece for a little while. I'm just trying to pick it up by ear, which is something that I don't do very often. It's simply an improvised boogie woogie. The real king of boogie woogie was Meade Lux Lewis, who wrote Honky Tonk Train. But this is something that he recorded. He made this record and called it Boogie Woogie at the Philharmonic. Those of you that know me have probably heard Chicago Flyer, which is it's kind of a similar piece of music, but I just wanted to learn a different one. And I sat down this afternoon, and it's not quite exactly the way he played it, but I've decided it's finally good enough to play it for all of you. Boogie Woogie at the Philharmonic by Meade Lux Lewis. Thank you very much, folks. Boogie Woogie at the Philharmonic. That's almost the first time I've ever played that. I sat down this afternoon and spent about an hour on it, and I thought, you know what? It's good enough. Okay, well, let me do, as promised, a final Boogie Woogie tune, which came out just after World War II was over. World War II was probably the height of popularity for Boogie Woogie music. And in 1946, Jack Fina, who was the pianist with Freddie Martin's orchestra, got the idea to do a Boogie Woogie on a classical theme, Rimsky-Korsakov's Flight of the Bumblebee. So here is the Bumble Boogie. Thank you very much, Bumble Boogie. Well, I appreciate all of you listening tonight for this Easter special. I'm very grateful. Thank you for those virtual tips. It's very helpful to me. And please tune in again next week for the next virtual concert. Sunday night, same time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch will be the next in my Music by Decade series, beginning with a continuous 30-minute medley of music only between 1919 and 1924. We're going to start working on the 1920s next week. So join me then. Thanks a lot. Tonight has been fun. Happy holidays, everyone. We'll see you next week. Good night for now.